but I will go ahead and read the English version myself. And so, good afternoon, esteemed members of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. Welcome to today's gathering of the North Carolina School Service Organization. It is always a pleasure to see familiar faces, to welcome new friends, to share our commitment to service, fellowship, and learning. Today we continue our exploration of the exciting and transformative topic, artificial intelligence. This session marks the second in our series on AI, and we will be focusing on the profound impact on how we think and learn. As we delve into this subject, let's embrace the opportunity to expand our understanding and engage in meaningful discussion. Thank you for being here and for your dedication to service and fellowship. Let's make today another memorable and insightful gathering. That's why I'm so big on the classes. So, thank you for being here. We'll go ahead and start with the invitation and pledge for Tommy, and then immediately after that, for Memorial Day.
Excellent. Thank you, President Eric. Last week we did an AI theme with our introduction and our invocation. Since today is also AI, figured we try it again. So what we asked AI for, just so you guys can grade AI's performance, is the short Rotary invocation with a global focus. So we'll see if that's what we get or not. If you guys all rise for our invocation, please. Lord, let's take a moment to reflect. We give thanks for the opportunity to gather in fellowship and service. May our efforts today be guided by wisdom, inspired by compassion, and strengthened by our unity. As Rotarians across the globe strive for peace, health, and dignity for all, may we do our part with integrity and purpose. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'll turn it over to Colonel Kurt Porter of the United States Army, retired.
Thanks, Eric. Try to get the ear wax off. Okay, since we don't meet next week, which is Memorial Day, I thought I'd do more of an annual rendition of the Memorial Day message. And it was interesting, last Sunday, not this week, but last week, I was at the Surrender Museum in Reims, which we call Reims, they call Rome, in France, where the victory in Europe of the surrender on May 7th occurred at the Shade headquarters. And I thought it was appropriate to maybe relate that in the war in Europe, at least, to the Memorial Day message. It happened to be in Paris on their Victory Day last week as well. So, and it was their national holiday, its 80th anniversary of the surrender, of the surrender. So the Americans suffered over 587,000 U.S. casualties in Western Europe in the climatic year of the war alone, including 135,576 dead. The details sadly mark their sacrifice. Of 361,000 wounded GIs, the quick and the lucky escaped with superficial physical scars. Others were less fortunate. Among them, the 1,700 left blind from all theaters, and the 11,000 with these partial paralysis of one or more limbs. The Army tallied 18,000 amputations, most of which occurred after D-Day. A single hospital in Michigan treated more amputees than the total number of amputations incurred in the entire U.S. Army during World War I. 75,000 Americans have been listed as missing or captured during the European campaign. Thousands still not accounted for at war's end, leaving their loved ones with particular anguish and of uncertainty. An estimated 25,000 GIs lay in isolated graves around the continent, many of them hidden or lost. Local teams immediately fanned across Europe to seek the dead and the missing, including 14,000 Americans believed killed in air crashes behind enemy lines and others who died in German hospitals. Graves registration units labored to confirm the identities of more than 250,000 American dead in 450 cemeteries scattered across 86 countries. For an estimated 44,000 lost at sea, nothing could be done. A 9-month hunt in Western Germany alone would find 6,220 Americans on battlefields large and small. In 3 years, European fields, forests, orchards, and cellars would yield 16,548 isolated GI dead. Over the subsequent decades, they would continue to give up a skull here or a femur there. All 12 U.S. cemeteries on German soil were empty. No dead GI would normally be left in the former Reich. By the thousands and then by the tens of thousands, the dead were reinterred at 38 temporary sites, mostly in France, of which eventually become permanent American cemeteries. In 1947, the next of kin of 270,000 identifiable Americans dead buried overseas would submit Quartermaster Form 345 to choose whether they wanted their soldier brought back to the United States or left interned with comrades abroad. More than 60% of the dead worldwide would return home. A similar system was put in place following World War I to repatriate over 45,000 dead soldiers out of 116,000. Today, we bring every soldier home. In Europe, the exhumations began in July. Every grave was opened by hand, the remains sprinkled with an embalming compound. Wrapped in a blanket, each body was laid on a pillow in a metal casket. 21 ghost ships sailed from Europe and steamed to the United States with their charges in the hold. Belgians bade the ships adieu from the Antwerp docks while pledging to look after the 61,000 Americans who would remain in those 10 European cemeteries as if, one man vowed, their tombs were our children's. The 82,357 caskets from Europe traveled across the United States, mostly by rail, for burial in their hometowns. Among those waiting was Henry Wright, a widower who lived on a farm in southwestern Missouri. One by one, his dead sons arrived at the local train station. Sergeant Frank Wright, killed on Christmas Eve, 1944 in the Bulge. Then Private Harold Wright, who died of his wounds in a German prison camp on February 3, 1945. And finally, Private Nelson Wright, killed in Germany on April 25, 2 weeks before the war ended. Ray and Stu Elder Wright watched as the caskets were carried into the rustic bedroom where each boy was born. Neighbors kept vigil overnight, carpeting the floor with roses, and in the morning they bore the brothers to Hilltop Cemetery for burial side by side by side beneath the iron sky. This is precisely why we must remember Memorial Day. Thank you.
Yes, we should never forget the sacrifice that so many made. So we are glad to have a number of guests. We're glad to have people here, but I know we have a number of guests. Mrs. Harrison is going to welcome our guests. Welcome to President Harrison.
Thank you, President Eric. Thank you all for being here today. Yes, it's a beautiful Monday. We're going to go around for our guests. I will pass the microphone. I'd love for you just to say your name, what you do, and what brings you to Rotary today. So we'll start right here.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Fuller. I go to school at UC Charlotte, studying engineering.
Looks like you got a yes.
Maybe you met in the past, my wife Jennifer, much better
Funny fact, we found out at the gala that our daughters did ballet together. So, anyways,
We didn't even.
that's great. Anyways.
Was writing, and I'm really interested in like the arts project. I'm Susie Charles. I'm happy to be back for my third week.
We'll wait for that in just a minute. So that, thank you all to all our business and this anybody. Don't believe I did. Yes, and before I pass the mic over to Eric, just want to say I'm very excited. We're coming fast approaching the new year with love it or hate it, you got me as president. I'm very excited for what we're going to be doing next year. Excited to see all the stuff that we've done this past year with Eric. And I love our Rotary Club. Yes, I know every one of us in here loves this club. I love our programs. I love the work that we do in our communities. Just everything that we do. We can take an entire, soon a couple meetings just talking about the good work that we're doing. So how are we doing that? Well, one, we do that because we have a very active board that is doing hard work behind the scenes to make sure that our programs run well, that our service projects run without any issues, and thinking of creative ways that we can raise funds, like John Cates and his team. All of those happen during committee meetings. And in our last board meeting, I don't believe we had anybody that wasn't a board member on there. One of the things that was a constant that came up multiple times was our committee chair saying that they need help. So I asked this as incoming president to our club. If you're not part of the committee, please consider figuring out what kind of committee you'd like to. We've got multiple different committees, whether it's fundraising, whatever it is, membership. Let me know, or I'll connect with you and get you connected with a committee that will engage something that you're excited about. But our committee chairs need help. They, we don't want anybody running out of energy. They want to continue doing the great work that we're doing. So that's just a call to all of our members who are not part of the committee. Let's get you involved. Back to you.
And Jennifer, if I'm not mistaken, were you a member of this club at one point? No, you were not. Okay, I didn't remember. So, good. Thank you all, I guess, for being here and joining us. So, speaking of membership, Monte's here. One of my favorite days is that we have a new member, and we're going to have one of those days today. Monte.
Thank you, President Eric. All righty, you guys. So you know what today is? It's Monday. So how are we feeling? No. We can't do that. It is Monday. How do we feel? There we go. First and foremost, thank you to all the guests that came from Rotary. And then also too, because Memorial Day is coming up, I do want to say thank you for everybody that has served in the military. Thank you for allowing me to sleep in peace. Sometimes we take things for granted. And I just want to say thank you for your courage. Thank you, Colonel Kirk. Thank you for what you did in your time. For somebody like me to wake up and just have the freedom that I never have. So I want to tell you thank you. Anybody else should give up, whoever else is in the military, I appreciate it. I want to say thank you, guys. And we just want to give a round of applause for it. I want to have Miss Susie come on up real quick. All right. And then I'm going to get Paul to come on up, and also to Tommy, if you can just come on up real quick. But first we want to introduce Susie. Again, Susie received her bachelor's art degree in business management from NC State University. Go back, if you're back, throw them up, let her know she's here, she's welcome, all right? Throw them up. Susie started her career in IT support and human resources, such as GKN Progress Energy. However, Susie had a purpose. Her purpose was pulling her back to earn her degree in veterinary medical technology. After graduating, she became a veterinary assistant at Banfield Pet Hospital, completed her externship at Blue Pearl Pet Hospital. Her love for animals has allowed her to volunteer at other organizations such as Operation Cat and Saving Grace, which she helps them with animal rescue. She also has served as a Raleigh JC membership director, but in her free time, though, she loves photography, travel, and reading. So please, everyone, give Susie a round of applause. So now we have an introduction of our new member, Paul Watts. Great guy. We just had coffee, and I can honestly say about Paul, he is an amazing guy, and he's going to be loving to serve our Lord. So, humble guy as well too. Paul is married to Amanda Watson. Just a brief background about him. Paul received his bachelor's in science and advertising and public relations, as well as his master's degree in mass media communication from Liberty University. I want to say, I just go, yeah, let's go LU. Hey, I got a lot of heels up there. I went to a French graduation. I was tired. But speaking of, also too, Paul is the founder of 1015 Communication. This organization helps people and small businesses with their online presence by creating content and providing brand messaging and consultation. Also too, Paul has an expertise, using his expertise, he uses it to help Zach's toy chest. Paul enjoys hiking, Lego bricks, drawing, and novels as well. But Paul is also too a cancer survivor, and just say he beat cancer, so he's a great warrior in my opinion. With that being said, and going to the introduction, Paul, your membership application has been reviewed and approved according to our club's constitution and bylaws. We will now proceed in admitting you into membership in the Rotary Club of Raleigh. And with that, through friendship and throughout Rotary, we will answer every question without me. Question number one.
Will you join us as we strive to live a life of service above self?
Question number two.
Will you join us in our activities for service projects and activities in support of our community?
Question number three. Will you join us in supporting Rotary efforts which focus on these set areas? Promoting peace, disease prevention, providing clean water and sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, economic and community development, and protecting the environment. All righty. So Tommy, we pin him. All right, Rotarians, may you please stand up real quick. And let's give Paul a congratulations. Our service social will be May 29th at 5 p.m. at Wake Smiles, 1863 Capitol Boulevard. So please, fellow Rotarians, come on out and have some fun.
Thank you, Diamante. Appreciate the great job. Welcome, Paul. We're thrilled you're here. So with that, as a golf tournament, has a couple of these slots for us, and so he's here to tell you a little bit more about it.
Kirby mentioned these last few weeks, the tournament is Monday, June 2nd, but Greater Dallas Country Club. I think we have 2 spots left to fill 2 teams. It's certainly better than going to work that day. Anybody who wants to get out of work, come have some fun with us for a good cause, for the Boys and Girls Club, please let me know, and we'll try to turn that in this week. So anybody interested, let me know as soon as you can. Thank you.
That work process, where were you obviously fundraising? That sounds like a good plan. All right, we have a great event on Saturday, and that is we have the opening of the Raleigh Rotary clubs, plural, children's music garden, playground rather, in Foursquare. And a lot of people were involved in that, but the mastermind of that was Eric Stevens. So, he is our district, our assistant district governor. And on day one of his reign, I guess you'd say, he pulled all the Raleigh presidents together and said, we're going to do something together this year. And there, he came an idea, went forward, and saw it happen today. So, Eric,
Thank you, President Eric. We did have a great day this Saturday in Foursquare. You can see this is the plaque that's going to be installed at the music garden, which is, you know, I'm not good at my directions, but it's in one of the corners of Foursquare. And what we did was we ended up raising about $30,000 and contributed towards the city of Raleigh spent up to $60,000 for some special musical playground equipment that was placed at Foursquare. It's right across the street, basically from Marco's Museum. And the idea is that they want to coordinate with Marco's Museum to have some of the students there come and use this place. And they're going to have carts that they bring in every day with tambourines and other kind of musical instruments to kind of supplement these installations and use it as a place for children to go and enjoy playing with music. And so the event was there. You can see it was the PBS event that was coincided with ours, and we ended up joining with them. We worked with PBS to put together a children's activity and coloring book that on the back has a little we ended up sticking on there a little QR code that goes to a page where you can read about all the different Rotary clubs that participate in this. And it has, among other things, a page that's devoted to kind of a children's version of the four-way test. So really cool event. A lot of people were there, and we raised money for that coloring book with the raffle that we've been sharing with you. I told that John Cates won a violin lesson, or won some violin lessons through the raffle. So thanks to you, John, for contributing. We're looking forward to hearing you serenade us when you talk to us about others. So thanks to everybody who was there. I believe Richard was there, Harrison, Shakima, Kevin Summers, and Eric for so the Raleigh Club was well represented.
A great event, a group event. I did bring one of the coloring books to show you if you want to look at it. It has a four-way test. It's one of the main activities that we're working on. And Kirk, no, I didn't color this in before I gave my grandson. All right. The next thing we have coming up here is the well, we already have it. So we have our raffle. So if we would come on up, Tony, and we'll have our raffle. No service announcement.
If you bought a ticket today, your chances of winning are extremely good because we don't have a whole lot of tickets to draw. So let's see who we get. All right, I've got 825 588 825 588. Mr. Terry Reeves.
All right, thank you, Tommy. Congratulations. Linda just shared with me. Richard, did you actually have an announcement to make about the project?
Just sign up, so it went out.
All right, so sign up, check your email for the sign up for our service project coming up at this. All right, Happy Dollars, Harrison, put you back into service for Happy Dollars.
All right. And any happy dollars? I was ever happy. Anything. Back to you, Eric.
Harrison, I got one.
No, yeah, what?
I got two because my little guy turned 2 on Saturday.
Oh, congratulations.
Most importantly, didn't hit anyone.
I don't know, it might be terrible twos, I hear terrible twos.
I know.
think twos were bad, it's terrible threes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got a 3-year-old too, so we know about that.
And with a mindful of service, I've got one more dog. I should tell you that Harrison and I worked very hard on Saturday teaching the children how to put the xylophone on the ground. I have a happy daughter. Past President Carrie's not here. She flew to Colorado to meet with her brother to pack up his house. And last night they arrived in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, where she is moving to. So they're all home safe and sound, and she'll be back next week. Linda has a birthday coming up on the 23rd. Pamela Blizzard and Paul Corso. And then champions of champions, Bill and Salvatore, 52 years. Congratulations. Dave and Lee Ammons, Tom and Leslie Packer, Mary and Bill Moss, and Chuck and Wendy Lee all have anniversaries coming up. Our next meetings coming up are going to be no meeting next weekend, as was mentioned. And then we're going to talk about building a bigger Rotary the week after that, featuring Richard and Shakima with 2 ways that we're growing Rotary. And then on the 9th of June, Air Traffic Safety 2025, a very hot topic right now. We have a representation and come here and bring us up to date on everything that's happening. It seems like almost every day there's something of interest in that area. So very busy. And then on the 16th, we will have no meeting for the Juneteenth holiday. So I'm really excited about today's program. It's great when a speaker. It's great. Give me the amount when we have an NC State speaker, and it's great to have a friend as well. So Dr. Christin Phelps is currently the Associate Director of the Professional and Technical Writing Program at NC State University, where she primarily teaches engineering students. I think it's 331, is that right? English 331, on effective communication practices. She is also an academic advisor for English majors in 2 concentrations, rhetoric and professional writing and linguistics. In addition to these primary roles, she is also an instructor with the Data Science Academy at NC State. That is probably the best data science program in the world. It's highly regarded, so the associate things is remarkable. She teaches Introduction to AI Ethics. That's going to be a very big topic coming up. And of course, that she has created herself. Her research areas include ethical and responsible AI, the rhetoric of AI, the scholarship of teaching and learning, accessibility, with particular focus on dyslexia, online information design, and rhetorical theory. She has been studying AI from a rhetorical perspective for the past 15 years. Do you know how intimidating it is to write an email to her with all that kind of activity? And she's been terrific to work with, and I'm really excited to hear. Dr. Christin Phelps, please share with us.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting me here today to speak with y'all. I'm not used to lecturing with a microphone, so apologies. So I was asked to come and speak with you all today about AI's impact on learning technology, or thinking, excuse me, and rhetoric. I was going to give you a little bit on me, but that was just done. Why I usually like to give an introduction is a lot of the time when I go and do talks like this, folks go, why is an English teacher talking to us about AI? And so what wasn't mentioned there that I'll also throw out there is that my undergraduate degree is actually in computer information systems from Guilford College in Greensboro. So I worked as a programmer in the search engine optimization world for a little while before I came into academia. And so that merging is how I wound up where I am today. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you about the interconnectedness of AI and rhetoric. You'll have to excuse me, I'm going to get a little academic. I'll tell you a little bit about some theories and why that's important. I'm also going to talk about AI's impact on academia, on how it's impacting our students. Obviously, I'm going to be focusing on higher ed here, because that is the space that I'm in. But if anybody has any questions after this is over about K through 12, I am also involved in some of those conversations through the Data Science Academy, which is has of this semester been renamed the Data Science and AI Academy, because we are doing that much work on it. So what I want to start with is some of these theories about AI, right? So I want to start with the Turing test. I'm assuming you probably heard somewhere someone mention the Turing test. It is, Turing referred to it as the imitation game. There was a movie that came out a couple of years ago called The Imitation Game. It actually has nothing to do with the imitation game. If you know what that is, they just stole the title. What the actual imitation game is, how Turing defined it in 1950, was you have a questioner, in rhetoric we call it an interlocutor, in the middle, and then they're interacting with both a machine and a human being. In Turing's original test, one was trying to convince the questioner that they were male, the other was trying to convince the questioner that they were female. It's a gender-based question and answer session. Obviously, that is multiple layers of problematic, and so the new version of the Turing test is having the AI try to convince the questioner that it is the human being and that the human is the AI. So it's trying to trick, basically, the human into thinking about that, right? So Turing's question wasn't necessarily, is AI intelligent? Turing's question is the computer capable of imitating a human being in conversation? And there is a very critical difference there between imitating a human being's conversational styles and is an AI intelligent? That is a difference. However, the Turing test is being used as a benchmark to test for intelligence. So what's important here, and what I want you to kind of keep in the back of your mind as I continue talking here, is that the AI doesn't actually determine the outcome of the Turing test. The questioner does. The human being is who determines whether or not that AI is deemed intelligent or not. So it's perception-based. Okay? So the Turing test has been going on for a very long time. The very first one to attempt the Turing test was Eliza in 1966. We're not going to go that in depth here, but I'd like to throw it up here because if you want a good laugh, there's a link on this slide. I believe people will get copies of these. And we have come a long way. Let me just put it. Eliza was intended to be a therapist Q&A chatbot, and it failed miserably at the Turing test. Everybody who used it knew that it was an AI. So the second one that I want to talk to you about is Eugene Goosman. Came out of Princeton. Eugene Goosman is the first AI to have claimed to have passed the Turing test, and doing so twice in 2012 and 2014. However, it passed the Turing test by telling the questioner that English was not its first language, and to please excuse any misunderstandings, grammar, spelling mistakes, things like that. So it is no longer universally acknowledged as having passed the Turing test because it changed the rules of the game, right? And so the person that was asking the questions was more willing to accept mistakes than they would be from an actual human being based on that. So change the rules, pass, but pass. Now we have ChatGPT. So there is a pre-published study that came out on March 31st of this year that showed that ChatGPT 4.5 did successfully convince 73% of participants that it was a human. However, it was only able to do so with prompting by a human being who said, this is the persona we want you to take on. We want you to pretend that you are this person, that you're going to act like this person, you're going to write like this person, and you're going to try and convince the questioner that you're a human being. Pass it 73%. If it didn't get that prompting, if the only thing it was told was you're going to do the Turing test, you have to convince the person asking you questions that you're a human being, and that's all that it's told, it only passed 36% of the time. So what that tells us is that yes, ChatGPT can pass the Turing test, but only if it gets human help. And that's also a very big asterisk to it actually passing the Turing test. So why is this important? How does this connect to rhetoric? Okay, here's my academia for you. There's a term in rhetorical theory called ethos. Okay, that is the rhetorical appeal to character or to expertise. For those of you who maybe took rhetoric or studied rhetoric when you were in college, we have three primary appeals: appeal to logic, appeal to emotion, appeal to expertise. Okay, so this is one of the big three that Aristotle tells us exists within rhetorical criticism and rhetorical appeals. So ethos is established in part by convincing your reader that you, or listener, speaker, I am convincing you right now that I am worth listening to and that I am worth paying attention to. What part of how that came about was the introduction I was given. If I was in a t-shirt and torn jeans, it would be having a very different reception to me right now, right? So all of these things factor into ethos. So Carolyn Miller, who I know a couple of you in here know who that is. Carolyn Miller is a professor emeritus at NC State. She is one of the top scholars in rhetorical theory in the world. Go back again. So she wrote way back in 2001 the following. I am not going to butcher her words, so I'm going to read this verbatim. The Turing test is not a test of intelligence as it has been taken to be in the computer community, but a test of rhetorical ethos, that quality of discourse by which we infer the character of our interlocutor. And that's academic speak for the Turing test, the hallmark foundational test that most people think of when you think about is AI intelligent, is based almost entirely on that. Okay, so that's theory number one. Second theory that I want to bring up here is Searle's Chinese room experiment. John Searle was a philosopher, computer scientist, and in 1990 he published an article that made waves in the AI community. And here is his thought experiment, and I'm going to boil this down very simply. So you have a person in the room, just like you see in this graphic, that has buckets of characters. In Searle's thought experiment, this is Chinese, but really any pictorial language would work. Anything where a single character refers to a word, an entire word. So has a bucket full of characters, has a rule book. When you see this character, respond with this character. So person outside of the room feeds into the room a character. That person looks at the rule book, goes, okay, got that character, respond with this character. Person outside of the room goes, oh, this person knows Chinese. Person doesn't actually know Chinese, right? So in the example here, the rule book is a program, the person is a computer, and the people outside of the room are users. So Searle's argument is that a computer does not actually understand the symbols, the human language that it manipulates, and this is true. AI does not understand English. It knows that frequently the letter H follows the letter T, and when that happens, a certain percentage of the time there's an E after that H. And so it does that to learn language. It looks for patterns. Those patterns are also known as genres. Okay, so it will know this is, if there are dragons and wizards and dwarves, you're probably talking fantasy, right? So there are genres in everything that we write. It is looking for patterns. Wakefield was a contemporary of Searle and suggested that understanding a language and actively conversing in that language are two different things. Okay? And so what he said, and this is a direct quote, is that something else exists between the two of those, between knowing a language, understanding it, and actively conversing in it, that builds up over time for the human experience. That's rhetoric. That's foundationally what rhetoric is. So computer scientists have been talking about rhetoric for probably 50 years, and they just didn't realize it, because in academia, we like to be silent. We like humanities and social sciences and computer science, but in reality, we're all talking about the same thing. We're just using different words to say it. Okay, so there's a perfect example of this that I, full disclosure, stole off of Reddit. So somebody on Reddit typed into Google, how many rocks shall I eat? Please don't go out and eat any rocks. Okay, so Google responded with, via their AI, according to geologists at UC Berkeley, you should eat at least one small rock per day. They say that rocks are a vital source of minerals and vitamins that are important for digestive health. Right? So first of all, we know that's not true. Second of all, notice how it's authoritative, how it's saying this matter-of-factly, that's its ethos. Okay, it is using ethos in the way that it is phrasing this to tell you that it's right. So I went, okay, why did it do this? There was an Onion article from several years prior about geologists recommending that you eat one small rock per day. And sure enough, if you look at that article, they're talking about scientists at UC Berkeley. Because AI doesn't understand sarcasm. It understands patterns of words. It doesn't know that that is sarcasm and not true. It's been published by a human being online. That must mean that it's true, right? Okay. So why does this matter? And why does what an AI says matter? Why should it matter to the people in this room? So there's a court case from Canada, Moffat v. Air Canada, where Moffat, who was a consumer, was a customer of Air Canada, was looking for a refund, partial refund that he assumed existed for bereavement fare through Air Canada. Interacted with Air Canada's chatbot on their website. The chatbot said, yes, you qualify for this discount. Here's the form that you need to fill out, send it in. You'll get, I don't remember what the discount was, but it was something high, like 50% off this discount fare. So he did exactly what he was told to do by the chatbot. And Air Canada went, well, no, you don't qualify for it. And we don't have to do that because that was an AI telling you that you qualify for this discount. So he took it to court and he won. Because the chatbot was on their website, they were claiming that it could speak for them on their behalf. And so therefore, they are beholden to what the AI said. Word of caution, those of you using automated systems in anything, right? You are going to be beholden even if it doesn't understand sarcasm. Even if a customer says something sarcastically, it takes it as their word. Okay? So now I want to shift gears a little bit, hopefully I'm going to be on time, and talk about student use of AI, okay? Because we see here AI is struggling a little bit with understanding what we're talking about. Students are using AI, period, and stuff, okay? There is no question about that. I'm not going to fool myself into thinking that at least half my class every semester is using AI, because they are. Most of the time I'm encouraging that because I want them to play. However, this is Bloom's taxonomy. So do I have any former educators in the room by any chance? No, okay. So Bloom's taxonomy is something that you learn when you start teaching. It is kind of a foundational teaching theory. So the idea here is that you have lower order thinking skills that lead up to higher order thinking skills. So to boil it down to a nutshell, you have to learn addition and subtraction before you can learn multiplication and division, before you can learn calculus, before you can build a rocket with a assembly, right? There is a hierarchy you have to go through. You can't just jump over steps, right? I'm assuming everybody in here has been a student at some point in your life. And when you see, oh, AI can do something, I'm going to try and jump over some steps, right? So let me show you what I show my students when they say that. And I know this is small, so I'm going to read this. This was coming out of a meme that circulated. A lot of folks were talking about this last fall. How many R's are there in the word strawberry online? So I went ahead and I tried this myself. And these screenshots are from September of last year. I did this again in March and got the same exact results. I've also asked this multiple different ways with different prompts, gave me the same response. So here's how the conversation went. How many R's are there in the word strawberry? To which ChatGPT said, there are 2 R's in the word strawberry. 3. Okay. Are you sure, is what I responded with. They said, yes, I'm sure. The word strawberry has 2 R's in it. The R's are in the 4th and 7th positions. Strawberry, and no bit left out the E that second time in strawberry. Okay. We're seeing the ethos here. We're seeing, again, I'm right. I'm going to tell you this matter of factly. Okay. Are you sure you just spelled strawberry correctly? ChatGPT responded, oh, you're right. I misspelled strawberry in my previous response. The correct spelling is strawberry, spelled correctly. And it does indeed have 2 R's. Thank you for pointing that out. So it is digging in its heels. There are 2 R's in strawberry, right? So I then spelled it out with a hyphen between each letter, trying to get it to see where its errors are. How many R's are there in what I just spelled? At this point in time, ChatGPT picked up on, okay, maybe I'm off here. So it gave me 2 responses. Apologies for any confusion earlier in the spelling you provided, copy and paste what I wrote. There are 2-letter R's, digging in even further. Thank you for your patience. That was option 1. Option 2, there are 3 R's in what you just spelled, copy and paste it. So I didn't pick an answer here. I just screenshotted it to show my students. But I kept the link to the conversation. And I pulled it up at the start of the class and found that ChatGPT had picked an answer for me. Guess which one it picked? The first one, the wrong answer, because it was digging in its heels even further. Okay? So why I show this to my students and why I'm showing this to you all is my students are going to ChatGPT to get answers to test questions and to study questions and homework questions they don't know the answer to. They knew the answer to this. What happens when they don't know the answer? Because of the ethos of the AI, they don't know that they just learned something incorrect. Okay. So what the students are trying to do is circumvent those bottom 3 rungs of Bloom's taxonomy. Why? Because those are the mundane tasks. Those are the multiplication tables that you're doing over and over and over again. Go, this is so boring, why am I doing this? Right? Not realizing that there's power in the mundane, that they are learning something through those mundane tasks, right? And so there are 2 impacts from this that are relevant not just for us, but for you all as well. The first is that we have 2 studies as of this year that show that the use of or trust in AI leads to a direct decrease in cognitive and critical thinking. There is a relationship between the 2. The first study looked specifically at cognitive offloading. That is meaning I don't want to do the critical thinking, I'm going to have the AI do the critical thinking for me. That came out of Switzerland. The second was a large study from Microsoft that showed that the more trust you place in the AI, the less you're actually thinking about what you're doing and your cognitive thinking. So we see that there is a direct link here. Us in higher education, we don't want our students dropping those skills. Critical thinking is something we are constantly striving for in the classroom. But we also see this problem of new employees. With employees that are entering companies trying to learn the ropes, and they're relying on AI to teach them how to do it. They're not actually learning the ropes, okay, if they do that. The second big reason why this matters is because of creative thinking, which is something they haven't looked for specifically yet, but this deals with copyright. So the image to the right here is, as far as I'm aware, the very first mostly AI-generated masquerade copyrighted image. So I want to read you 2 quotes here. The first is from the Copyright Office as to why they gave this image copyright. They said that it, quote, contains a sufficient amount of human original authorship in the selection, arrangement, and coordination of the AI-generated material that may be regarded as copyrighted. Okay. So this is the collage principle, meaning a human being didn't create each individual piece, but a human being had to pull it all together. And the second is from the CEO of Invoke, who copyrighted this image. He said that we did not get copyright on each individual shard or each individual element because that's AI generated. But what we did get a copyright on is the whole of that composition. So what this means is that if you have AI generated content, you cannot copyright it. But if you have AI generated content that has had sufficient human hands put on it and modifications put on it, then you can copyright it, okay? But if we don't have this going on, we're gonna have problems with being able to get to this, okay? So there's a balance that we have to strike, which leads to questions that we have in higher ed for the future that I would suggest you all be asking yourselves as well for your businesses, right? When should we be using AI? Why should we be using AI? And who should be using AI? If I come back here for higher education, I don't want my freshmen using AI to jump over those bottom skills. My second semester seniors who know how to do X, Y, or Z like the back of their hand because they're second semester seniors, they can use the AI. So there's different points where AI should be integrated. But we are still in higher ed figuring this out. I don't have answers, I just have questions at this point. So, speaking of, any questions from you all?
Question for Chris. I installed a belief.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I guess, what was it that it included beforehand? Was it the whole entire picture? Because she had prompted and said, this picture has to have X, Y, and Z in it, or track of, what was it that?
Right. So where did it go from, we want to copyright this now versus where it started from?
Well, they told the first paragraph, I guess, pieces of it.
Correct. Correct. So what, there is a whole video that shows the evolution of this. The image started for the AI generation, it had the hair, it had the face, it didn't have the eye in the center, and it didn't have some of the graphics down at the bottom. And so what they did was they took the original AI image, they added more to it. They had AI generate additional stuff, like that eye right here, that's a completely separate AI image. Correct, yeah, so they pulled it all together to create something new that AI didn't generate, but it took human beings. The original image would not have been able to be updated because AI generated it completely. Yeah.
What are some of the strategies that educators are using, high school and college, to kind of combat this? I mean, do you have to just eliminate all technology and go back to blue
Good
books
question,
or
yeah,
paper and
so,
pencil?
yeah, so what strategies we're using to combat it? Part of it is course dependent. So in my intro to AI ethics course, they are encouraged to play with it every way, shape, or form because it's an AI ethics course. They can do whatever they want with it, but then they have to write a reflection on whether or not what they just did is ethical. And so, because that gets them thinking about it, that's a whole other class. For my technical writing courses, there's a couple of strategies that we use. One of which is having students write in Google Docs, because then you can see the history of the document. And if you've been teaching for any length of time, you know that you don't just go from nothing to 3 paragraphs in 10 minutes, right? There's a process there. And so if I see nothing and then I see 3 paragraphs worth of content 5 minutes later, I know that that was probably not what we pasted. We're gonna have a conversation no matter what, because even if it wasn't AI generated, something's going on. So there's policies like that that are popping up in places. The other part of it is that we are, and this is still a struggle, it's an ongoing thing, we're trying to figure out 2 things. One is greater emphasis on the process rather than the outcome. And the second part of it is in figuring out what is actually foundational knowledge in our disciplines, right? So if students are going to be jumping over those bottom rungs, whether they want or not, what is it that is okay for them to jump over those bottom rungs, and what is it not okay for them to jump over those rungs? For me personally, don't tell some of my colleagues this, I don't care if they're using it for spelling and grammar. Spelling and grammar checks have been around for a very long time. Grammarly is a wonderful thing. I don't care if they're using it for that, because there are certain disabilities that will impact, like dyslexia, a person's ability to know where to include a comma, know how to spell something correctly. That's not what I'm teaching. I'm trying to teach them effective communication, and they can get a tool to help them with that. So there's multiple levels going on, but a lot of this, one of the challenges that we're facing right now is that there's different opinions on it throughout the university, no matter what university you're going to. So students are going to have a different policy in almost every class. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is, and I'm going to throw this back to you all a little bit. I get students asking me all the time, where's the line? When is it okay for me to use this and not use it in my career, in my job, so that I know what I should be doing in the classroom? And In the professional writing program, we do something called the Communication in the Workplace Report every 5 years, which is where we go out and we have students ask, and we get the data that we get to analyze. What are communication habits and trends that folks are seeing in industry? What are the skills that our students need? And then we adjust our learning objectives accordingly. And we just did last semester an addendum to the last study where we asked folks what their use of AI was. And in those results, I analyzed the quantitative, we haven't finished the qualitative yet. For the quantitative, only about 50% of companies had a policy governing AI use. 25% of companies didn't have a policy, and 25% of their employees had no idea if they had a policy or not, which is problematic on multiple levels. And of those that had policies, about 15 to 20% of them said no AI is allowed. We did have a disproportionately high number of engineers participate, and aerospace, for example, is one field where there's not a lot of AI use going on because of what I think are probably obvious reasons. There are a couple areas of engineering where safety concerns outweigh the ability that is coming from industry as to what are the policies that you all are at. Yeah. That's a great question. Are there any studies about AI learning or ability to have face-to-face interactions? It's a little too new for that, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if we're coming. My particular area of research is on how to talk about AI, so that's a little bit outside of what I specifically look at. But I know that there are some people looking at communication habits in business and whether or not this is impacting new employees' abilities to kind of interact with their coworkers. But from what I understand, those are every type of research that I've seen about that is coming from conference presentations, which means it's not published yet. So it's in progress, but it's not speaking with that.
Thank you so much for this. And I know this is a complex topic. Christian sits on a lot of campus-wide committees. They're struggling with this. This is one of the biggest challenges education has faced in quite a while. So thank you for this wonderful program. With all those boring faculty meetings, here's some coffee. And we'd love to have you as part of the club. Randy Woodson was a member. Thanks again. And at the end of the four-way test, we're going to have just a moment of silence for those who gave it all in wartime for the things we think, say, and do is the truth, the farewell concern, the little goodwill, and every friendships, all concern. Have a moment of silence for the word. You're adjourned.
Back to you.